All right, we are back. Welcome back to the Verdigris Table. I'm Ryan Doyle. This is Fil Kearney. Go check him out. There's a million links down below because Phil has done a lot of awesome stuff, and you can watch him do it live on stream, all day, every day. I'm pretty sure. 10 streams a week. This is a recording, but we are going to fire up the Game Master's Compendium of Explosive Creation. And earlier you had chosen Exile, I believe. Do you want to stick with that, or do you
Yeah,
want...
I randomly stumbled into Exile when I did the initial die roll, and you know, 6 or a half dozen. It's all the same because it's just we're just building chaos, so it doesn't really matter where we are. It's just a matter of where we're going. So
That's a perfect perspective for this. Yeah, we are harnessing chaos to build something, character, a world. So to harness that chaos, I'm going to ask you to roll one of everything: D4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 20. And it's way more fun if you do it all at the same time.
do you need percentile dice as well?
No, so the percentile dice is that like table of contents, picking out Exile or whatever else you may be.
Oh, okay. I already got that part done.
So within that and within this, if something jumps off the page, you decide like, oh, I'd rather it be this. We can fudge here and there. In the same vein, if something's makes you have the response like, that's cool, but it would be cooler if... Great, it's doing its job. We'll run with that.
Right on. I've got my I've got my my craps dice from Las Vegas here for my D6ers. They're my lucky dice. And I've got a D20 that I picked up, I think, back in '97. And I have, it's not in this box, but I have one of the original box set from oh yeah, here it is.
That's OG.
It's all covered in muck now because it's been taped over and stuff over time. But this is the original.
Is that like the OG, like the fill-in one where like, yeah, wow, okay.
Yeah, I never bothered filling in the numbers. I can't read it because, you know, colorblind. But yeah, that's an 8. I just keep it in here for luck, basically, just to remind me where I came from. So, but yeah, I've got my dice set. I am ready to roll into adventure.
Awesome, love it. Give me the D20 to start. This is going to determine our character's drive, dreams, and aspirations. What's our motivation?
Right on. And I don't know if the audience can see this or not, but I have this little shaving kit box that I keep all my dice in, and I use the lid as my roller because color blindness also robs you of ranged vision, so I can only see about 10 feet. So my entire career as DMing, I've had to have my dice like this in my face, which means I can't use a DM screen. So I've always had a little box I can roll my dice in, so the players can't see what I'm rolling, but I can. So I just rolled an 11.
11. I didn't realize that it affects like depth perception or like range of vision. Period.
When you have no color vision, you don't have any cones in your eye, and one of the things that cones do is zoom function. So I basically have a 72 DPI camera in my eye with no zoom control.
Huh.
So if I want to see something, I literally have to bring it to my face until it's in focus, which means I can't drive. And it also means I have a 32-inch monitor that's about 9 inches away from my nose, so I can read. fun little devices and problems. It's a unique challenge in the 21st century.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, I can relate to a degree, but I've got these things to...
Yeah, my eyes are round. It's just I don't have the software. I don't have the firmware to be able to translate the images, that the light that's received, into images that are recognizable. So like I'll see something coming down the street and it looks like a 5-legged bear running at me until I realize, oh, it's just a jogger with a big dog.
Yeah.
Anyway, I rolled an 11, sir.
11. So this is the Exile. Motivation: to serve others as an act of personal reform. Serve others as an act of personal reform. That could go.
Oh, I like this already.
Yeah,
like the idea of an exile having to looking for redemption is a great plot.
Yeah, pretty. Serve other, yeah, and like through acts of service. Let's see how that interact. Give me the D20 12. Our catalysts are call to adventure. Why are we an adventurer now?
D12 equals a 12.
12. Magical messages from an old ally.
Okay.
So what is that? You get any ideas off of those two?
Currently I'm thinking that the ally is a dead mentor, and the magical messages is just either things that he specifically programmed to trigger at different events in my life, or when I went to certain locations that he knew something about to not only remind me that he was still there, but to also be able to provide me insights. So I'm kind of getting like a quantum leap vibe
Ooh.
where my sidekick, Augie, the side computer, and Al, no, Sam, no, Al is the
Al. Sam's
sidekick.
the guy. Yeah, Al.
Yeah, yeah,
Al?
yeah. So
Al.
I'm
Al.
Sam, and Al is the ghost remembrance of my magical ally, feeding me information to different locations I went through, having the opportunity to right all the wrongs that maybe he had left behind. Maybe I was a student of his, and I've inherited his sins. And as
Mm.
an act of redemption for his bloodline or his school or whatever, I'm going around trying to fix all the crap that he stirred up, perhaps. Don't know. We'll find out. But that's kind of the vibe I'm getting off of it.
That's quite the vibe. I like it. I mean, yeah, I like Quantum Leap, or I liked Quantum Leap back in the day.
The remake isn't so bad. It's a very different flavor, but they do really cool stuff with it. And it does reference the original series. It's worth checking out. It's on Paramount, I think. It's worth
cool.
checking out.
There's so much content now. You
Paramount's
can
actually a really good streaming service.
I
They've got they all the stuff I've seen on that channel just slaps.
hmm,
It's
hmm.
legitimately good. Anyway.
Uh, um D8 is going to be potential growth or character arc. So usually I like to leave this stuff like open ended so you can determine it through play, but having some sort of concept going into it makes it 8. 8 on the old school. Discovering purpose beyond their own plight.
Discovering purpose beyond their own plight.
Yes. Be like potentially like where's this character going to go as we progress through the story and through the levels.
God, this totally reminds me of spoiler alerts for people that haven't seen the show since like 1993. But like in the third season of Quantum Leap, they found out that there was like an evil quantum leap force that was going around trying to make reality worse
Hmm.
while Sam was trying to make things better, and they would bump into the same timeline where they would fight against each other. It was like a whole devil versus God affair. I'm getting a vibe off of that there's potentially other organizations that are maybe trying to defame the school or whatever even further than it already was. So I'm having to fix new problems that are being created along the way. Maybe, who knows? Maybe.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Like
Quantum Leap, the
there's like
RPG.
there's a shadow version of us, which is always good to like hand the DM because like I don't know, everybody starts off like theoretically as a hero, but like who knows after a bunch of
Yeah,
player
no, see,
decisions.
like having built-in organizations that hate you is just it's just great DM fodder, instant foes.
Yeah, well those are coming. First we're gonna get a friendly one.
All right.
The D4 is gonna give us a friendly faction. Maybe we belong to them. Maybe they're just partial to us.
The hero always has the least amount of options on his side.
Yes.
So D4 it is, and I rolled a 4. I'm just rolling high today.
Or the Ruinborn, a community of refugees from a shattered realm, sharing support and knowledge.
Again, that curving right into that mentor thing, isn't it? You said ruin born, as in born of
Ruinborn.
ruin.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So maybe it was a like a forbidden sect of magic, like chronergy or like soul magic that's forbidden for wizards to have access to, but we studied it anyway. And now we're on the lam from all the mage archies, trying to shut down our cleric casting abilities with a book. Or we stole the knowledge and it's been hidden all over the world, and it just happens the places that need to go have pages from a missing book, maybe. And so there's scattered people that are also looking for scrolls and stuff. So when I run into them, we can consolidate our information. We can like level up. So like the only way I'd be able to level up is by finding somebody who has more information that I don't already have. So that could be fun. That could
I
be
like
really
that a lot. So we're
fun.
getting like sounds like we're leaning wizardy with this
Yeah, I think
character.
so. Or like maybe yeah, or like it could be like sorcerers. that are able to like bend their blood into different lineages. And
Hmm.
maybe that's pissing off a sect of demons or something. Who knows? Or we could be warlocks that went rogue from our otherworldly patron, and we keep stealing knowledge from them to be able to build our own pacts amongst ourselves. So it becomes a pact of all instead of being a pact to this demon that we've screwed over. So now like we tilted. We outwrote the contract on our own demon bonds. So we all found a way to break out of our contract. And so now this demon's running a deficit, maybe, and it has to make its books good, or otherwise it's going to get claimed. Who knows? I don't know how demons work, but that sounds fun. A bunch of demon refugees. Who knows?
I like that. That's a nice like twist on the whole thing. We're not just like an exile from like the place we can never return. It's like we had an agreement that we've reneged on or renegotiated or
Yeah. And now
like
there's a death pact on us. Like, yeah, we have to go to hell to renegotiate it, but everyone in hell wants to kill us, so we can't go there.
yes, yes. And we have
Who knows? We'll see. We'll see how we'll see how that pans out when we get some villains, right?
yeah, our mentor got us in and maybe also out at the cost of their life. And yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they're trapped there, and ultimately we're trying to free them. Maybe.
All right, so D6, we're gonna drill down into a friendly NPC, an asset or an ally.
Okay. I rolled a 2.
Two, Otho Cruz, knowledgeable scholar with a fascination for foreign cultures. Easy. My dog is freaking out. Knowledgeable scholar with a fascination for foreign culture. So that, I mean, that slots into our bumping into people with knowledge that we're also seeking.
Yeah, he might not be involved at all. He just knows there's a thing happening. He keeps finding evidence of this weirdness going on, and then he starts running across people like me that are like their souls are bound to it, and he becomes infinitely fascinated with that condition. So, out of academic curiosity, he becomes a willing ally to help me find more information, like find the next treasure, like the next clue in the treasure hunt.
Yeah, and I like the idea that he's like tangential to it. Like he's in it for like the I don't know, the cultural, like the culinary scene of
Yeah.
the Ruinborn or something. Like he ends up there like for a whole different reason.
Right.
He's like, oh, like the demons are taking over the world. Okay, yeah, I guess I'll try to help you. Okay, I like this so far. So D10 is the last stop on the player's side, and that's going to give us a magic item.
I got a 5.
Five, the Babel Stone. Once per day, grants ability to understand and speak any language for 1 hour.
Any
Pretty.
language or all languages at once?
I would leave that up to the GM's interpretation, but as written, it says any.
So it'd be like basically 1 hour tongue spell for free per day.
Yeah, yeah,
Nice. That makes sense, especially if I'm going on world hop looking for esoteric information across the multiverse, being able to speak any language. Presumably, I'd be able to read any language with it as well, I would assume. So I could explore tomes for at least an hour a day to get my research downtime in.
yeah. It also feels like maybe like acquiring this was the ticket to like deciphering the contract, the
Oh
agreement that we
God,
made.
yes. Like here, use like when my master dice says when you have your when you review your contract, make sure you use these spectacles or something
Mm,
like that, or
mm.
like use this divining stone to read the text. And like it would zoom in, it would see like all the little 1 pixel words that were like little gotcha languages. And
Oh man, it's just like the
yeah,
super
it's like you
fine
could
print.
yeah. It's like the stone could like zoom in and see that and would be able to translate what it says. Is like actually what this is saying is that, your leg's gonna fall off in 3 months as a result of this, animate and then kill you in your sleep or something. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna just line veto that. So I'm
Yes,
like marking stuff off on the contract while the demon's not looking and then sign it.
yes,
Like all the
like
caveats are gone. I get all the power and none of the robberies. Who knows? Something like that.
God, I love that because that's always. I mean, that's most like maybe it's a min maxer thing, but like that's most players' fantasy is beating the system.
Yeah, and there was I think it was Justice Armin who put out a book when Descent into Avernus first came out about demon contracts and using microtext as and like using fine traps to find logic traps
Mm,
inside of contracts.
mm.
So that would allow your character to basically do find and disarm traps by like doing line vetoes and like using instead of like thieves tools You could use deception or intimidation to break that bonding contract while you're negotiating with whoever your contract bearer is. So, different way, again, a different way to be able to approach 5e mechanics in a different narrative, but using mechanics that we're already familiar with.
Yes.
So,
And that's the only use of fire and traps I've heard of. That's sounds good.
right on. Right on. The color mana system that I use, I do, since you can see colors, right? The color mana system is like, you'll see an object, it'll have a color glow on it, so you know like it's red magic, like that sword has red magic on it. But if you
Mm-hmm.
check for traps, you might see like a thin veneer of blue, which
Nice.
indicates
Yes.
illusion magic. So then you dive into what that blue magic is, and you peel it apart, and you actually find black threads inside of it. So like if
Mm-hmm.
you were to pick up the sword, you would be cursed to have to kill somebody once a day. Otherwise, you'd lose hit dice. Like you'd be able to find that by peeling apart the colors using like Arcana check or detect magic or identify or like true seeing. You can use the color language to create these different tapestries that you can literally de-thread to find out what's inside of it as magical strands to be able to piece together like the weave in Forgotten Realms could be literal colors of magic anyway.
I love it's like arcane string theory or something like
Yeah. Using the five colors of magic as your theme because I always think in Magic the Gathering,
yeah.
but
And I
that's
think
like a really deep way to have a really strong visual narrative on just instead of just like roll for traps, you can now make it a skill challenge where you're finding deep. Like I don't know what that I failed my checks. I don't know what that black thread is, but I know for a fact there's black magic on this, and I don't know if I actually want to pick this up or
yeah,
not.
it's not
We
good.
should
It's
we should
not
go
good.
find
If it was like radiating white strings, I'd be all over this thing. But like blue made me suspicious, and black is like don't touch that. Uh,
Exactly. So it's again, it's just using the same tools that are in 5e with a different narrative and a different focus to redefine your old tropey disarm trap things. Like, no, now it's layered in all these different strands of magic that you can peel apart.
yeah, and
So
if you're here from like a D&D background and you haven't really played Magic the Gathering, I mean it's fun, maybe check it out, but you don't need to know a damn thing about Magic the Gathering to be inspired by and implement. This color system is like beautiful in its simplicity, and
yeah.
I think I find it so much more thematic
Yeah.
than the schools of magic. It's cool in concept, but there's so much like overlap. It's maybe too that's not as cut and dry as it seems. You can get lost in the weeds of like distinguishing stuff, and it doesn't it doesn't pack the same like emotional resonance, the same thematic resonance as the color system in Magic is dope.
Yeah.
Not to
Yeah, I
say,
could easily spend hours talking about the differences between 8 schools and 5 colors. Like just there's so many rabbit holes in there. It's so
yeah,
fun.
and that'll be a different episode.
Happy to have it.
All right, let us.
Enemies or the
Well, okay,
campaign.
is there anything else we want to develop on this character before we want to switch hats and go more towards the game master side?
Honestly, I think the game master side is going to probably fill in the missing bits. I think we have a really cool quantum leap sort of vibe going here. I think that's held true throughout the entirety. The exact origin, nature of it, of the origin, I think that's going to probably get defined by the campaign itself. So let's see if that's true.
I like it, and I like players coming to the table with an open-ended character.
That's the best thing about session. As a DM, I run 1 to 20 level campaigns in about 250 hours, and every time I start a campaign, I have a blank slate. What genre do you guys want to play? How much risk of death do you need? What are you going to do about rolling over new characters when they do die, if they can die at all? Stuff like that, like coming in with no preconceptions about what the campaign is supposed to be,
Mm,
that everyone can build everything together to have like a really tight narrative that allows for you to be able to expand on a central core idea to lead in whatever direction it takes you. And when you have like they say when the house is good when the bone what is it the house is strong when the bones are good.
hmm
It's just that session zero is what creates that core skeleton that if it's built well you can just run a campaign forever off of it by just diving back into the themes that you all agreed on. So yeah, let's check it out.
it's good to get everybody on the same page. We got to all be playing the same game if it's going
Yeah,
to
yeah,
be
yeah.
the most amount of fun.
I mean, you'd be you wouldn't be surprised,
No,
but no
I've
one
yes,
to the hobby would be surprised at how horribly that can go.
yeah. I have been fairly lucky in my career. I've definitely had some like mismatches of expectation. I don't have a lot of horror stories. But that's because I've always been for the most part, I've been the dungeon master. So it's
Nice.
my I roll a clean shop. All right, I'm gonna ask you to roll those craps dice. We're gonna roll 4d6.
All right, gonna do it. Got my Vegas dice here.
Come on,
Clack
baby.
these down. You want the total?
No, we're gonna go one at a time. So I'm gonna ask you for the first d6. That's gonna give us the antagonistic organization, the faction that's out to get us that you were looking forward to so much.
I rolled a 5.
You rolled a 5. The 5 is Sweet Asylum, a charity formed to help the displaced, but spends lavishly on quote unquote fundraisers. That in magic terms feels like a little bit of like a not a build around, but that's like a charity displaced. So we got
A
like a
very Orzov, very
chat.
Orzov mentality there.
Say again?
White with the price of black.
Mm, mm.
Okay, fundraising. Okay, lavish fundraisers uses a fake front charity to further their own ends. Sure. Okay. I'm not sure. I think I need more information for me to be able to really define what that's going to be compared to where my character's at.
Yeah, and maybe I mean it depends what else is like going on in the world too. But you introduced this idea of like there's like some sort of like shadow version of us out there too.
Yeah, I think there's a
Um,
possibility of that, or like an antithetical organization that's yeah, it's the character the character's origin isn't defined well enough to know exactly how that meshes with this fundraising group. But it sounds overall they ask for money with the guise of it being something beneficial, but in the end it's to further their own goals
mhm.
by paying a lot of lip service, but spending the bulk of it on the back end where nothing really gets done to help, but only fattens their own resources. So I could see that bending in a couple different directions. But
Uh,
I want to have more details for me to be able to make sure, if you
sure,
don't
sure, sure.
mind.
Give me the next D6. That's going to be a rival or an enemy NPC.
Rival NPC is number 1.
Number 1, Tall Elric, a tavern fly who distrusts foreigners and thinks it's obvious everyone else should too. I mean, that's just, I want to, I like that guy sitting at the bar. I don't know how deep his entanglements go, but
Well, I mean, if that bar is the hub of where information comes and goes, and he does it with Thieves' Cant, just talking randomly to people that sit up at the bar next to him, say a couple words while they're ordering a beer, he gets all the information that he needs. He conveys in a couple words what they need to know. He has his drink and he leaves the bar and he's never seen again. He could go through like 30 guys a night that way.
hmm.
Popular bar. So that could be a resource hub, like an information hub. So maybe it's like a city adventure that we keep going back to the same locations, but the cast keeps changing at the locations, so it's always like a new dungeon of intrigue and intent to peel apart. People could have like different contracts and bindings on them that interact in weird ways while they're in this environment, and I have to peel apart what their actual relations are to each other and what their paths are for me to unravel and steal from them, maybe.
And I'm getting this like, like extra planner kind of
Kind of a
implication with
planescape.
like if we're quantum leaping, right? If
Yeah,
that's
what is it? Tales of the Yawning Portal. If it were in Sigil,
yes.
like the portal like could change locations to lead to different places, or like people are constantly coming through all these different doorways that lead everywhere in the multiverse, like the corridor of stairs. Um, yeah, so like this could actually be like a resource hub for this dark energy. And maybe my team have like wormed their way in, or are now barflies there also trying to pollute or gather information from this rival group. That you could have an entire campaign just running inside of the space of this bar.
Yeah. And I like okay, this is the setting. There's people from like literally everywhere and potentially everywhen. And there's this one like xenophobic guy where it makes the
Yeah,
least
yeah.
amount of sense. Like
Yeah, yeah. He's there trying to shut down as many doors as he can.
uh,
Oh man. Okay, great. What the I guess the next number?
yeah, D6 is gonna give us an evocative location.
Number 4.
We
Let's
blew
see
this
what
wide
that
open.
is.
So this could be the Cave of Whispers. Illusions drawn from early memories lure the unwary to their doom.
That really curves into that esoteric knowledge thing
Hmm.
that we were starting with, the Cave of Whispers, where the sages would listen to these crazy whispers and they would scrawl what they heard, and it ends up being incantations or like dark text or whatever. That's the is that the where my rival, where the Sweet Asylum or this rival guy, like if this is like where the rival's at, that kind of makes sense with that bar idea that we're playing with.
Hmm.
If it's the Sweet Asylum themselves, then most of their money would go into research and sages that they just employ to sit there, listen, and take down the information, and then sometimes that information gets leaked, or they're trying to, like, maybe that Cave of Whispers is telling prophecies of what's going to happen in the future, and they use those prophecies to bend world events in their favor. And maybe my sect got caught up in that. Like maybe my mentor was a past scholar that got kicked out of that place because he was stealing knowledge from it and sharing it with light bearers. And so the
Mm.
asylum didn't like that, so they wanted to kill him. He escaped. He shared his information with as many people as he could quietly, so that if he got killed, and he did, then the information would still be out there, but his soul is fused into the pages. So every time I find a new page, I get a new whisper from him. Like the whisper rises off the page from his own words, and it becomes part of my own knowledge. Like if we were going with the sorcerer, it would change my blood or infuse my blood with more energy. That would be how I could get experience points, by gathering more pages. So it could be like a milestone adventure. Like I won't gain a level until I find this book, because that book has the knowledge I need to become more powerful, thus gaining a level. So we could divorce the experience point system and make it a milestone, or even a timed based campaign where, like, if I spend enough time with these books on me, I'll just get infused. So like in 3 sessions, I'll gain a level no matter what it is that I'm doing, for instance. So like you could play a campaign that way, where your characters, like I've ran campaigns that way, where every 3 sessions we gain a level no matter what.
Hmm.
And like 4 or 5 levels in, the team's like, wait a second, if we just fuck around for a few sessions, we'll gain a level and we can take on that threat that was too tough for us. So what's some cool side quest stuff we can do? We got to burn some time. It's
Each
like, how many levels
episode.
do you want? Like, give me 2 levels worth of stuff. It's like, okay, give me a second and I'll come up with a side quest, and then we'll just dive down the barrel and like start a pub and make it the best pub in town. And by the time
Mhm.
that pub is awesome, not only do we have a great place to go drink, but we've gained 2 levels. Now we can go tackle that thing. So
Yeah, I
this,
do love, and it was in older editions where downtime is required to level up, right? Like insert training montage here. You want to gain a
yeah,
level,
yeah. In
takes a
Becky, it was
week.
1 level per. It was 1 week per level gained.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
So
like
like,
whatever, level 5 is 5 weeks.
yeah,
So
yeah,
because so often in fifth edition, particularly, like you go from zeros to heroes, and it's been 8 days. Like we were fighting rats in the basement, and now we're saving the world, and like
yeah,
it
yeah.
hasn't it hasn't been 2 weeks yet.
Yeah, yeah. You either have to have that, you really need downtime built in your campaign so it's plausible
Mhm.
that like your enemy can gather resources that quickly as well.
Mm.
So having that downtime is a natural. The current campaign I'm running is one adventure every 10 days.
Mhm.
So when they finish an adventure, there'll be it exists inside of a 10-day block. And at the end of that 10 days, they're in charge of a mining operation. All their adventure involves mining. It's mining asteroids in the orbit around Eberron in a Spelljammer Eberron campaign. So every 10 days, they've gathered in more ore from the asteroids that they can then convert into basically resource points that they can spend on more stuff, as well as gaining levels. So all the tasks that they perform take place within these 10-day blocks of time. And every 10 days, they have a new roster of problems that they have to deal with. So the other way to run a campaign with no breathing time is that the gods are directly involved with you,
Mm.
and they are just actively pumping as much divine power into your character as they can possibly have you hold without exploding, which explains why you go from 0 to 20 in 8 days. And
Yes.
there's all these other entities in the world under the command of dark forces that also explode in no time. So literally world-ending threats come out of nowhere. So there's like this popcorn system of world threat, world solution, world threat, world solution, protector, 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 massive world threat kills all of them. So you're constantly having all these people rise and then die. And the entire world is aware of this. So they become aware of the meta narrative. It's like, shit, I'm ascending in power. I have no idea what's going to come for me next. I
Yes.
am like, some of these people like run away from the call to adventure, and you have like all these 5th and 7th level characters that like dropped out. It's like I don't like I'm a bartender. I'm a 7th level bartender. I don't want any of this shit. Get out. Get out now. Go away. Do not bring your pain to my door. Like if I pop off, I'm dead in 5 days. Go away. I've been living with my family for like years now. Go.
Because that's very insightful because there is like the Korra. You see it so much on like the hero side because that's what you're focused on. But like, yeah, the evil is also having to escalate at that same rapid pace and like
Yeah. Yeah, they have infinite
narratively.
resources. Like there's demons, devils, and daemons, and then there's like celestials. So it's like 3-on-1. So like
Mhm.
the forces of good to be able to balance have to explode
Mm,
fast,
mm,
while the bad guys are layering in like multiple enemies, but they're weaker, which is why high level characters can just bash their way through anything that they come across because they can accumulate power more quickly than evil can raise it against. So evil has to create legions to
mhm,
slow you down just so that one guy can get through to make that horrible plot happen. They've got like 20 runs at the like they're all doing like these speed runs for this answer, and the forces of good create these super soldiers that can just destroy all of them. So you're just hunting like a well-structured 1 to 20 campaign is as you're going along from tier to tier, all these different threads that your characters didn't have the time to resolve escalate and become bigger problems.
mm.
So as you start pruning all the threads and resolving problems, there's always 2 or 3 that keep getting through. So by the time you get to 17th level, people are like the biggest complaint is I can't stop my players. Well, if you start at level 1, there's so much shit on their plate. It's gonna take them from level 17 to 20 just to pay back all the grudges they've accumulated in the first 16 levels. That's
Yes.
a well-built campaign. You only have enough time to by the time you hit your final form, you've accumulated so many foes that you can finish the last tier just cleaning up your own mess. And once you clear everyone from the plate, that's the conclusion. So whoever you deal with last becomes the biggest problem because he was the only one that got the run all the way to the end and is like inches away from the finish line when you show up and try to slap him down. And that's a good 1 to 20 campaign. You can keep people compelled by that literally for 250 hours at a time. And then whatever the consequence of that was, you roll that into the theme of the next campaign. So I've got my Eberron campaign now. It's the planet's been destroyed. All the nations of Corvair are floating in their own little bases in the asteroid belt, trying to rebuild the planet by collecting rock together
Mm.
and gathering resources that have been scattered to the realms. And but that's the result of prior campaigns running through a 1 to 20 campaign that ended up destroying the world because they screwed up one time. So now all of the subsequent campaigns are either time travel, trying to go into the past to fix it, or dealing with the present day being stuck in a ship in orbit with nowhere else to go. So it's if you run a campaign for X amount of years and you get good at cycling through campaigns like that, you can build and build. So like what I did this campaign, I know is going to come around and bite us in the ass in an upcoming campaign, and your players can look for it. It's really fun. It's like a
I love
different level
that.
of meta.
I love that. I will say you got to make sure the players know because I've done that on the back end and haven't been upfront with the players. And I've created myself mistakenly a sense of like frustration. Like I don't like how are we supposed to do all of these things? It's like, oh no, you weren't. Sorry, my bad. Like let's here's how this game is working right now. Here, like you're playing whack-a-mole, there's too many things and it'll escalate with you.
Yeah, and that becomes part of your session 0. Like
Yes.
just to make sure
Yes.
everyone stays on page. And like I have a session 0 every tier. Like we get to level 5, new session 0. Where are we
That's
going?
smart.
Level 10, new session 0. So we keep pushing through. Here's the stuff that you resolved. Here's problems that are still outstanding. Which of these threads do you think is the coolest to pursue right now? And then that's the thread that you follow, knowing and them knowing that all these other threads are going to still be a problem at some point, but you have to deal with what you can deal with right now, and that's where the session 0 is. How are we knowing what trouble you've already gotten into? Where do you want the campaign to go from here? So it's your story and you're committed to sticking it out, so
Yes.
that so that when we hit the next tier block, you can completely change the theme of the campaign with what's left over. And that's how you continually get the team to keep buying in to where their campaign is going, so that they remain emotionally invested and find opportunities for them to invest their own character into where the story is going throughout the course of their career,
And that's
whether
also
there's
how you stay
downtime or not.
that's also how you stay sane as a game master running like a sandbox type of situation like that. It's like, hey, where are you guys going so I can prep it and not prep four things half-assed? Like, let me, what's the one thing I'm gonna do good here? Like, tell me
Right,
where,
right. And so
what's,
over the next 2 months while we're playing this out, I can see how these other two threads might be doing stuff that the team will be able to see when they get into the next tier. They'll say, oh, yeah, that makes sense that evolved that way. Well, if we didn't deal with this guy, who knows what this guy would have done? So, I mean, it's six or a half dozen, take your pick. We got to
yeah.
do something. Let's go with that guy.
And it's interesting. So I tried to make this. I mean, this is system neutral, right? There's no game mechanics here. I tried to make it fairly setting neutral. There's a lot of different ways things can connect, and I tried my best to make it like tier neutral. And I think by starting low, a lot of these will slot into like session zero at level zero. But at
Yeah, I
least
see it.
for me, I can like scale all of these up, right? Like, okay, we're starting at level 12, right? Or we
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
closed out
Abs-
two things. All right, I'm going to pull a
absolutely.
thread out for each of these character archetypes, and then it's easier to scale something up than to like take a world-ending threat and put it in the tavern basement.
Right, right. No, this
um,
is this. I'm everything we had so far makes total sense. That basically any level of play, like this organization, this chamber, you can introduce them at any time, and they would have a different bearing and weight on the scope of the campaign depending on where it first shows up.
and I
So
like I like that versatility. Like you set the table. That's like, all right, if you deal with this at level 3 or level 7, it's going to be fun. Like there's no the world is dynamic and growing alongside of you. It's not
yeah,
just on pause waiting for you to come and destroy. Hey, give me
absolutely.
that last D6.
It's a
Speaking of
three.
speaking of scaling, this is going to be our thematic monster.
Nice three.
3, 6-footed stalker, fearsome magical beast native to their homeland. And that's a more maybe uh just a straight up interpretation of an exile. So fearsome magical beast. I mean, just a 6-footed thing is cool.
That immediately makes you think of a basilisk because
Ooh, sure.
so a 6 foot stalker magical creature. I mean, it could just be any kind of abomination, or like it could be a mouth. Okay, so we have the cave of whispers. That makes me think that it should be defended by gibbering mouthers, the things that
Mm,
babble incessantly and drive you insane when you're stuck listening to
mm,
them.
mm,
And then have one of those that are or that it just has legs, so it can walk around and it can creep up on people and start whispering insanity into their ears. And so maybe the lavish fundraising organization takes maybe their charity is okay, so their charity is to help people that have had brushes with supernatural experiences that have left them with like traumatic disorders, right? They disassociate because of the unnatural horrors that they've experienced. And so instead of helping cure them, they feed them to these gibbering mouthers to drive up their insanity so they can gain access through their soul, this dark
mm,
information that
mm,
are being led to have pacts with demons with, to access information inside of their soul to expand their insanity. And at some level, it's like a beholder. Like if you can drive them insane enough, they can create alternate realities. So they're actually trying to create a reality engine inside of this cave by ramping up the psychic energy and madness inside of this little itty bitty space to the point where it creates a chaos star that they can rebuild reality with in their own image. And my mentor got kicked out of that because he realized what was happening and was leaking secrets about it. So now the organization is having to divert funds away from driving insanity. So we're slowing their progress every time we spread information to other people about what this stuff is. So maybe it's like a reverse 1984 where the society already has a baseline control over the magical society, and we're causing it to fragment because we're disseminating information of truth that
mm,
resonates with people that are trying to find a way on their own, that they know they're supposed to be waking up, but they don't know how. And then they run into this matrix stuff. What is the matrix? You have to feel it for yourself. So like we're kind of taking quantum leap and blending in with the matrix of waking people up out of the society. And ultimately we have to go back to the cave and burn it to the ground and be willing to lose all the information that we've built our society on so that we can be free from demonic influence. It'll suck. And when you get really high up there and you realize what you have to do, a lot of people beg out. They're like, I just put me back in the matrix. I want steak. I don't want to live on
Yeah,
curd for the rest of my life. It's like the fanatics are the ones that stick to it, and your characters can decide whether they want to be fanatics or if they want to bail. And if they bail, they end the campaign, and then you build something new. But if you decide to stay fanatical about it, you realize that you have no promises of how good your future is going to be, but at least you get to build it for yourself. So that's a neat idea. I
that's a
like
awesome idea. Yeah, I love that. Like the reason, like, so again, I'm not artistically talented, so I went out and found art, and a lot of this like crystallized with. I mean, I have a screen. Um, a lot of like this character and the fire and the explosive. Like I like the chemical reaction thing of like, all right, let's put these components together.
yeah.
But also like, hey, game master, here is a tool set to make creativity fun and quick so you can burn your world to the ground and enjoy it and look forward to the next thing. So yeah, I love the idea of like if you complete this campaign, the next one we're going to be riding dinosaurs and wielding clubs because we're just resetting everything.
I
Okay,
love it.
we clearly don't need it, but I'm gonna ask you to roll the final D20. This is a big bag of plot hooks and story seeds, so we can
Oh,
keep coming back to this well. This might tie everything up in a bow. This might be a total tangent.
I roll a 4.
Four, an influx of migrants were forced from their homes by an emerging threat. So a whole new wave of people. Yeah, I mean that kind of like goes back to that like cyclical nature of like the evil being a numbers game and just like waves and waves. And maybe this is the evil, maybe this was displaced by that, like the latest uprising from the place you weren't looking.
Yeah, or these could all be refugees from someplace that was struck by madness, which is a massive influx of power for this charity.
Hmm.
Because all these traumatized people that lost their home and they're now being displaced into a foreign country, and all that foreign country wants to do is milk their fear and their anxiety to create magical energy. So they are locking them in a perpetual loop of personal terror and insecurity while they're just trying to make good for their family, and they're being thrust into this environment, and the people that are native to that environment don't like them, don't like the energy that they're bringing, which rifles up the amount of stress that's in
Mhm.
the native population. So when those two things mix together, the asylum gets to pull energy off of both of them at the same time, so they are able to hyper accelerate their progress in creating that dark star. So that's oddly parallel to things that people might be experiencing in their own real life right now, which is good fiction.
Yes. Yes. It's all a metaphor at the end of the day.
Truly.
Yeah, that is powerfully evil. That is a very good dark force. I think yeah, I'm getting a lot of like I mean the body horror vibes you bring in Gibbering Mouthers and then like you play with them with silly putty until you have one running around like a freaking like a displacer beast or a basilisk.
Like that could be a repo. That could be like a repo man, like a
Oh
repo powder.
geez.
It
Oh
goes
yeah.
out and it finds people that escaped and drags them back to the cave. So yeah, so you can have these kill squads. In one of the time travel campaigns that I ran, the Inevitables. The team got on the radar of the Inevitables. So whenever they would mess around with time or they would resurrect somebody, it would summon like a like D4 plus 2 Inevitables, and like those are like CR12 plus like CR12 to 18 creatures. So like when they first found out they were on the shit list, like a really low level herald showed up and warned them that there's a warrant out for their arrest if they don't cease their activities. They didn't really understand it. They're like,
Mm.
okay, sure, whatever. So they decided to keep pushing their luck. And then like really powerful things showed up. They had to evacuate. They're like, we got to leave this whole nation, we got to get out of here and redefine ourselves to hide our identities and start picking at this problem again so the inevitables don't find us again.
Mm.
Uh, this has a similar vibe of like high CR threats hunting very low CR victims, and almost like a Hellraiser sort of thing. Like once you mess with the box, you can't get away from the Cenobites. It's sort of that same sort of madness. I love that.
God, good stuff.
God,
Yeah.
I'd run this campaign in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
Jesus.
do you have anything else to add? That there's so much, and yeah, I would love to see like players interact with it to see what else would come from it.
Yeah, we could do all sorts of things. We could be creating labyrinths and dungeons out of words, like to escape a Givering Mouther. It creates like emotional and logic traps inside of a psychic space that you have to use like insight, perception, and knowledge checks instead of skill, like instead of like silence and stealth
Mhm.
and like trap finding. You have to find out like what's true, like without diving into the specifics about what it's saying, because it's saying 1,000 things at the same time. But you have to find your way between the sentences to find the gaps of freedom to be able to try to claw your way out of this mind web. Um, that's a fun space that like if you get trapped in the cave, that's a way you can get your way out of it. You could be doing chase scenes through a city, and as you fail wisdom saving throws, different paths like alleyways you could run down no longer become options for you because all you can see is death and traps inside of them. So you're being funneled into particular lines of travel that lead you to a kill squad sent by the asylum to catch you. So the gibbering mouthers that are chasing you are forcing you to go into a path that they want you to go to, and once you zone in on that path, it becomes a fight because everything in DD ends up in a fight
Oh, sure.
because that's where 80% of the rules are at. They want you, whatever you do, they want it to end in a fight. So using that mentality, we could use these logic traps to force you into a conflict where you can use all your action economy and stuff to try to fight your way and break past that, only to find that you're in like a larger, more complex, more subtle form of maze trap that you eventually find the edges to and realize you're still trapped inside of something. And maybe like over the course of the 20 levels in the final tier at level 17, you wake up and realize you've been in the cave the entire time, like as a big matrix reveal sort of thing. Like all this has just been bullshit memories that's been fed into you trying to create specific attitudes and emotions from you, which is what your first 16 levels fed. So the enemies that you face are just incarnations of all the problems that you were never able to resolve in your character's life from level 1 to 16. So they're there in the cave with you trying to tear you apart to claim the last pieces of your experience to feed back to the machine. That would be really fun. That'd be a really that's night hag activity there. Like night hag's nightmare ability to go
Yes.
into your dreams and mess with you while you're sleeping. That's the kind of stuff that night hags can do. Create these false realities. I ran a campaign where their main opponent was a night hag, and occasionally they would realize that they got captured by the night hag and they've been milking dreams for 3 levels. Like from level 5 to 8, they were in a dream that the night hag constructed specifically to peel apart all the information they have about a thing that she wanted to know about. So she kept setting up all these weird scenarios that made them reveal information about what they know from their first 5 levels. And they basically just fed all this information to the night hag. And then they were like, this is getting really, that guy's dead. I don't know why he's in town. I know he's dead. I cut off his head myself. And like after a few logic errors, they would start seeing they'd see like the webbing, they'd see the edges of it, and then they could peel it apart and realize that they were in a bed held down with little like slug scab things that were crawling on them, siphoning information that. And the night hag had jars of these things in her laboratory, and she wasn't paying attention when they woke up, so they could escape and then try to figure out we need to tear that lab apart. So it was a really fun campaign. I tricked them twice from level 5 to 8, and then from level 12 to 14. I tricked them twice, and at that point they were really savvy about it, and they eventually killed her. They found her lair, her home plane of existence. She built a pocket dimension that she bound herself to be outside of time. And when they found that lair, they went in there. They stabbed her in the neck until she was dead. And since that was her home plane, she couldn't come back. And they did that at level 18. So a CR was a CR9 Night Hag terrorized these people for 18 levels. It was a great campaign, but that's just again sculpting threads and where are their priorities. But this same setup like that, you could be peeling apart people's minds and feeding them entire fictitious realities, just like the Matrix, that you're trying to quantum leap your way through, and you realize that everyone's trapped in this stuff in this stupid cave. So if you can claw your way to freedom in the cave, now you can actually fight things and they'll die forever. and you can start freeing people and like create a resistance and rebel inside the cave to overcome the gibbering mouthers, to force your way out of Plato's cave to see the light of reality and
Yeah,
get
I
an
was getting a lot of
existential
Plato at
here.
the end. You went deep. That yeah, it's a psychological thriller
Yeah,
by
yeah.
Aristotle. Like,
It's like a combat oriented Jacob's Ladder.
yeah, yeah, that was fascinating to watch. I really enjoyed it. I can't decide if I want to be a player at your table or not.
That's a compliment. I'll
You're
take it.
operating at a different level. I'm gonna go full screen. Because yeah, that was awesome. Tell the folks at home where else they can find you being awesome.
I'm Phil Kearney, Filkearney. Put in a search for that. You'll find my art. You'll find my art streams. You'll find my books on DM's Guild. You'll find my Patreon. You might find my Discord channel, Discord Phil Kearney Creations. You're welcome to hang out with me. Anyone can dive into my Discord channel. There's no prevention access. If people want to play all these ideas and stuff that I do, I play test all of it myself as a DM. And if it's an adventure, like this Eberron adventure I've been creating. I play tested that with 4 different groups, and from that group, 2 of them wanted to DM it for their team. So I had DMs that played through it with me and then took it and rebuilt it the way that they wanted to and played it with their team, and then came back with feedback about what their experiences were, which we then updated the adventure with. All that playtesting stuff I pull from my $1 Patreon feed and anyone that's in my Discord channels. As long as the timing lines up, Patreons get first access to seats, and then anyone on my Discord has second rights. And then if I need to find other people, I'm currently playtesting. Oh, I will be later this month playtesting stuff for the Spelljammer encounter, the fleet battle that I'm doing in Vocath. I will be playtesting the Martial Powers magic system for martial characters, level 5 and 6. I'm building a Ravnica Rubble Belt hex crawl system that uses colored land for the tiles that the characters move through in the hexes. So, like, if you move into a blue tile, it'll have a bunch of like Ravnica blue themed stuff going on with it. So as the team moves from hex to hex, they can decide what color they want to mess around with, and all the adventure stuff will be themed around that. And it's just there for us to throw mana around and beat stuff up, just to play test the mechanics on stuff. But both of those play tests, I run myself, and then provide all the tools for other people to run them if they want to as well. So that's the stuff I got going on. Phil Kearney. Just search for me, you'll find me, and all of it all just funnels back to me. There you go.
That's
So if you got any questions, ask.
that's
Anyone.
awesome.
So
Yeah, playtesting is huge, and underappreciated, or like not as understood. If someone's talking about stuff on the internet or trying to sell you a thing, it's an interesting question to be like, hey, has this ever actually been used? Because you can tell sometimes the answer is no.
yeah,
But let's
yeah.
that aside, if you want a front row seat, if what you just witnessed didn't terrify you and you want a seat at Phil's table, it's there for the taking. You get a front row seat to the creative process. uh
And this is a great book. This toolkit that you built, it's fantastic.
Thank you, I
This was
appreciate it.
a fun process. Easily built a campaign here that I would easily be able to run from level 1 to 20. Just the amount of trouble and the narrative that we built in with the themes that could stretch to any tier of play. This is good stuff. This could just be running around as background radiation in any campaign, and you could just turn it on like a Cylon at any time. You could just make this your campaign out of the blue and just
I
terrify yourself.
appreciate you saying that. That means a lot coming from you. Appreciate you,
Hell
man.
yeah. I
Yeah.
love this kind of stuff. This is well built randomizing. So well done, sir.
Yeah, thank you. All right, and thank you everybody at home for hanging out with us and spending some time with us. We appreciate you. Check out the description down below for links to all of the stuff. Please and thank you. Hit some buttons while you're down there too. That helps.
Definitely.
And
Like, subscribe,
check
etc.
out go check out Phil's stuff. Appreciate you guys. Be kind,
Appreciate
have
you.
fun. Bye.
Thank you.